Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to make a start. I think we'll maybe gather some people along the way. So I just want to start talking about district cooling in an urban development and how it's helping with global decarbonisation. I think there's a lot of people not here, but they'll be able to see this online. So hopefully we'll get some other reaction another time. I'll stand up from time to time just to move around, because I don't want to be in the same place. First, a quick introduction. I'm Colin Sangster. I'm Senior Vice President of Breed, and at the moment I'm looking after business development, trying to expand our business outside of our comfort zone. Breed has been in the Middle East now for 26 years, starting off in Abu Dhabi and in the military projects in the desert. Growing up in Abu Dhabi, it's got a big contract with the RTA and the metro in Dubai. So it's got various different angles. And it started, and what differentiates us from other district cooling providers, we're the leading provider because we're in other countries. We're in 6 countries. We have 91 plants. And we're saving annually something like 1.3 million tons of CO2. I was going to ask the audience if anybody knows how big is a ton of CO2. What's the volume occupied by a ton of CO2? The audience is quite small, so maybe they won't know. But if anybody knows, let me know. Yes.
Me, I don't know.
I don't know. I've got
no. So it's I had to Google this to find the answer. We're all talking about CO2, but I wanted to know a bit more about it. And 1 ton of CO2 is 556 cubic meters. So the size of this room that we're in here, if you have 6 of them, 5 or 6 of them piled up on top of each other, would be the size of 1 ton of CO2. So that's the hole in the atmosphere that 1 ton of CO2 makes. Breed does 1.3 million tons of CO2, saves 1.3 million tons of CO2, which is almost a kilometer square. If you imagine that, that's the size of the hole that gets pierced in the environment by not having, if people didn't have district cooling. So I think this is a really interesting, for me anyway, interesting facet of what we do and what we're doing to prevent district cooling. So my talk today will explain why district cooling is getting more and more important every day worldwide. What is district cooling? Because I've been at COP for a few days, and not everybody actually knows what district cooling is. So I'll explain a little bit what that is. How can we encourage more district cooling, more use of district cooling? What technologies are we working on to try and make district cooling more usable, more friendly, and even more environmentally friendly than it is today? And I'll finish with a couple of quick case studies on projects that we're really proud of in Dubai and on Saadiyat Island on the edge of Abu Dhabi. So I like this picture. It shows what district cooling isn't. It's just look at the number of split air units on each of the buildings, and they're all dirty. They're all consuming a lot more CO2 than we would, and they need lots of maintenance, and they have issues with refrigerants as well. So there's lots of different reasons why this kind of building should not exist anymore and should be moved over to district cooling. Each one of these boxes emits something like, or causes the emission of something between 1 to 1.5 tons of CO2 per annum. So think of that. If you can get rid of all of these boxes and have a structured cooling system, that's going to be much better for the planet. So what is district cooling? Well, the first ones we've just seen, the boxes on the side of the building, the split air units. So individual, they provide cooling to an individual apartment or an individual flat or an individual home. So not the most efficient, but in many cases that's what you need to have. Better than that is what we call variant refrigerant flow, VRF systems. So these use quite a complicated system of piping refrigerant around a building. So it's much more efficient. The refrigerant actually is very good at dissipating the heat energy or the cooling energy around the building, but still not as good as district cooling. Centralized cooling, I've seen a lot of these actually in my wandering around Baku this week. So these are okay, and they provide for usually one building, maybe a couple of buildings at the same time. But much better is district cooling. So imagine a whole district made of a school, of a shopping center, of a mall, of a hospital, of university, of residential buildings, of hotels. We have a plant that supplies all of these buildings in one go, and it makes big economies of scale. And this is where we get the real efficiency. Combined with the size of the chiller, the technology means that we're able to use much less energy per thermal ton of cooling that would otherwise be consumed by these alternative systems. So this is a diagram that just shows quickly the flow of district cooling around the district. So here we have a plant. We supply cold water. We have a big refrigeration unit, chillers. We had a very good interaction yesterday with people from Train who were talking about their chillers, and we use a lot of Train chillers. We use other makes too, but Train and others make chillers that cool water down to 4.4 degrees, send it through an underground network into an energy transfer station, which takes the cold energy out of the water. And then there's a secondary side inside each of these different buildings that runs parallel to the chiller plates, takes the coldness out of our water, puts it into their own water inside the building, and circulates it around the building to provide cooling. And that cooling cools down all these buildings, comes back to our heat exchanger, heated up, so it comes back. We supply at 4.4. It comes back to us at maybe 11, 12, 13 degrees. We take it back to the plant and begin the process all over again. So that's the process of district cooling, and it provides. So we have a network that would supply all of these different buildings in one go. It's the important message here. We use 50% less energy than these window units and other alternatives that we see below. It's very reliable. So in our plant, we're able to build what we call N+1. So if you need a plant with 5 chillers, you put a 6th chiller, so that if one breaks down, you've got a fallback. You've always got some spare capacity. It's part of regulation in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, actually, to have this extra safeguard. And we make sure we've got additional pumps, additional electrical feeders, whatever it is. We just have a duplicate system somewhere to make sure that we're reliable. I've mentioned the energy efficiencies, but we also have, with 26 years of experience now, we know how to operate these plants. So we're able to operate them well, maintain them, using artificial intelligence to make sure the maintenance cycles are properly organized. And by doing that, we save on energy costs. So our customers save a great deal of energy cost. And we help businesses to meet their own energy demand requirements over time. Oops. This one. So how can we encourage more use of district cooling? So first, on the government side, the governments are happy because they like to save money. They often are responsible for the energy supply, the electricity supply in a community. And by putting in district cooling, we can save them on capacity, they don't need to build so many substations, they don't need to build so many, they don't need so much production of electricity at the end of it. No less transfer, less transformers, everything is reduced. So the governments and the energy companies are able to save on capex by us bringing district cooling. The efficiency we keep talking about, but it's really something all governments want to be able to claim, that they're saving energy, and in the UAE we're very proud that we're reducing our CO2 footprint, and the government is happy with this. Sustainability, so again it's helping us demonstrate our sustainability with the government, with its program of trying to get to net zero by 2050. Real estate, the same again. The real estate, the buildings that are connected to district cooling have much better electrical efficiency, much better energy efficiency, and it helps with the selling, the marketing of these buildings. Actually, because we finance the installation of the cooling systems, the developers don't need to spend so much, so they can actually, they should sell their buildings or lease them for a little bit less than an alternative building which has got its own cooling facilities already installed. They save space, so in some buildings, a hotel for example would like to use its rooftop for a swimming pool. If you've got all your cooling towers and your cooling equipment, your VRF drives and so on the roof, you're not able to get those savings. So that space to be able to use for something else. So it makes the environment much better from a kind of aesthetic point of view. You're able to do nice things with the environment rather than have clumsy machinery everywhere. Actually, I love to walk around an area that's district cooled because it's quiet. If you go to an area that doesn't have district, I used to live in Singapore, and every day I'd walk back through from the metro station to my apartment, and there was this constant hum of air conditioning units buzzing away, kicking in and making a noise. If you go to some of the areas that we cool, it's quiet. It's actually strangely, eerily quiet, but it's nice. It's a nice addition, a nice benefit of district cooling. And now all of that makes real estate more marketable, gives it more value that we can the real estate developers are happy with. And we have in Tabride, we have good relationships with real estate developers around the region, but especially with the big developers in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, where we're in partnership. We'll see a bit later in Dubai what we're doing. How can we encourage even more use of district cooling? The key, one of the keys, and it's come up a lot, is that we need to be clever with the planning. We need to get the urban planners involved at a very early stage. It's too late. If you've already designed and built your city or your region, and the buildings are up, the roads are laid, but you haven't put your district cooling in, it's too late. We need to be there from ground zero to put the network in, to put the plant in, to make sure the planning is there, so that when the buildings come, the system is up and ready. Because the last thing you want to do is be digging up all the roads to lay your network, to install the cooling pipes once the buildings start to be occupied. So that's important. Regulation plays a big part in what we do, and I'm very pro-regulation. I think we can work well with regulators because they make it a success between the provider. We're a commercial company, so people always mistrust someone who's making money out of something, and the customers who are paying. So we can have a regulator help maintain that trust relationship, and I think this is really important. The regulator will give minimum standards. So I talked earlier about the N+1 chiller arrangement, for example. They keep an eye on the pricing, so we can't just inflate our prices with no good reason, or we have to have a contractual inflation mechanism or an agreed mechanism up front that works with the regulator. So again, very important. They make sure that we provide leading customer service as well. So in Tabride, I've seen over the last the 10 years that I've been there now, it's gone from having very little in terms of customer service. Now we've developed hotlines and good, clear billing, explaining what we do, explaining the consumption, giving you averages, how you compare with other customers in a kind of average way, so that people can see if they're performing well or not. So all of these are good ways to encourage greater adoption of district cooling. Because we've been doing this for a while, there's a risk that we get a bit lazy perhaps, and we don't do anything new. We just rely on what we've done time after time again. But the world's not like that, and we have to move on, and we have to get better. We have to find better ways of doing, and bring that electrical consumption, bring the consumption down, bring the electrical efficiency up, and produce more cooling for less kilowatt hours. We also have to be aware of the environment, and water, especially where we started, is very scarce. Water, the UAE has a very high water consumption per capita compared to the rest of the world. So we need to play our part in reducing water consumption too. And one of the ways we can do that is by using treated sewage effluent. So in our projects in Dubai now, rather than using very expensive desalinated drinking water for our cooling towers, we take treated sewage effluent from the municipal sewage system. We do some extra treatment, so we've developed in-house water treatment capabilities, and we use that water to run through the cooling towers to provide the first stage of the cooling for district cooling. That's a great use, I think, of wastewater, and then we put it back into the wastewater network once we've finished with it. We can use seawater. It's also there. It's proved quite challenging, and you have to get it right. And maybe Tabrit has some lessons to learn there still. But in other parts of the world, this would be a very good way to provide cooling to big communities. Things like putting variable drives on our chillers. 25 years ago, a chiller was either on or off. So if it was a 2,000-ton chiller, it was producing 2,000 tons of chilling or no tons of chilling. Now we can vary that, so we can scale up the production out of a chiller to just give you exactly what's needed. So again, that's a big efficiency gain. Hazardous waste, actually, the real hazardous waste in here is the refrigerant. And if you go back to my picture at the beginning with each of the individual split units on everybody's window, and some not so scrupulous maintenance technicians coming around and replacing the refrigerants, you don't know what's happening with those refrigerants after they're finished with in the cooling system. We have very meticulous care of our refrigerants. We'll get them recycled, and when they come to the end of the life, they'll go back to the refrigerant supplier, who deals with them properly and makes sure that they're disposed of in a correct way. And we heard yesterday some very good stories about how this can and needs to be done. Something we're working on at the moment is a thing called nanofluid technology. I explained at the beginning, our system is a water-based coolant. So we put water through a network, and the heat or the energy, the cold energy, gets taken out of the water to be used in buildings. By putting nanofluids, so these are tiny particles, it increases I'm not the best of technologies here, but it increases the ability of the water to transfer heat energy to somewhere else. It stops it just makes it more conductive and makes the transfer of energy that bit more efficient. So we're discovering now that we can get 10 or 12% efficiency improvements by putting these nanofluids into our system. Still in the early stages, but we'll try more and more of this as we develop. And then lastly, renewable energy. Because we run our plants on electricity in most cases, so we're more and more connecting up to solar energy wherever possible. The UAE is doing great in putting much more solar energy in than before. So we're using more and more renewable energy from the grid. But also now we're piloting a geothermal scheme in Abu Dhabi, where, because Abu Dhabi is an oil country rather, we work with ADNOC, which is the Abu Dhabi oil company, who's got drilling expertise. So they've drilled down, I think, 2 kilometers into the Earth's core, into the Earth's crust. From there, we take heated water, we bring it up to the surface with a pump, and run it through an absorption chiller, and we convert heat energy into cold energy, into cooling, and this is a almost free source of cooling energy. So it's a very nice technology, and we're going to roll that out in other parts of the UAE, and we're looking at doing that in other countries. So my challenge to roll this out into some parts of Southeast Asia, for example, is to find areas where we can really exploit geothermal energy. So I promised I'd finish on a couple of case studies. So Dubai, we're very proud here. We have a project which ultimately will be 235,000 tons. So out of 1.3 million tons that we provide today, this will be a significant part of that portfolio. So we provide cooling to the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, and all the surrounding area. We have 4 plants in a network that's 35 kilometers long. So it's a proper utility structure. Today we're connected to 170,000 tons of customers equivalent, and we produce something, or we save something like 150,000 tons of CO2 per year doing this. 4 plants, so that if one has a problem, or if we need to do maintenance on one, the others are all linked up, so we can run 3 plants or 2 plants. We can shut things down in the winter when we don't need the full load. In the summer this year, it was super hot and super humid as well. So we were running all our plants and at full capacity. Having said that, again, we've got room inside several of those plants to expand further when needed. So I think this is a really nice example. Planned in advance, so the cooling system was done from day one. It had to be if you're going to be providing cooling to the Burj Khalifa, the largest shopping mall in the region, very prestigious hotels. It can be done in advance. So a nice project. And similarly nice is on Al Saadiyat Island in Abu Dhabi. When I came to Abu Dhabi about 15 years ago, this was just sand and a little bit of sea, actually, that's since been reclaimed. But again, with planning, the Abu Dhabi authorities have been great at creating this district that's a tourist district. It's got museums. It's got prestigiously the Louvre, the offspin of the Louvre in Paris, which our shareholder Engie also provides cooling for in Paris. So we have something in common with them. But in Abu Dhabi, it's crucial that we keep the temperature inside the Louvre at the right levels. Otherwise, very, very valuable works of arts will decay, will decompose. So we have a very strict regime for making sure that our cooling is always working there. Again, we have a system, a network of plants. So we started with 2 plants in a line, and we've just added the 3rd plant, so that again we can meet the demand. We can increase as the growth of the district grows. The network is in place already for people to kind of plug and play as they join the system. So it's a nice way for us to provide cooling to this region, and it's a good place. If ever you come to Abu Dhabi, I'm sure you might even end up staying there, because it's got the seafront, it's got the nice hotels, it's got the culture, the tourism district of the new Abu Dhabi, planned in advance and in conjunction with the Abu Dhabi municipality and also the real estate company, the real estate developer that's developed here. So I think that's all from me. Unless you have questions, I'm happy to try and answer any questions. And if you want to correct my maths on the CO2 and the size of a ton of CO2, I'm happy to be corrected.
Thank you, Colin. Very impressive presentation. Satoru Mizuguchi, freelance journalist. Yeah, thank you, Colin. Very impressive presentation. Satoru Mizuguchi, freelance journalist. You present us very insightful and impressive presentation of your more than 20 years history of district cooling in the Middle East. But compares to the conventional cooling regime, still district cooling system is in a niche market, right? So if so, what kind of policy or finance or innovations or people's sentiment to the coolings, these kind of what kind of element should be aligned with your district cooling to make your niche market upscale? so this is my questions.
Yeah, thank you. I understand what you mean. So, firstly, people need to want to be under our scheme. I don't think we should impose. It's not something that should be imposed by strong regulations. We have to demonstrate that the district cooling is efficient, so it saves the CO2 that I'm talking about here, and it saves people costs. It saves people money. So these are the first ways to make sure that district cooling gets adopted. Yes, we should have some regulation, and in fact, regulation is helping us in Abu Dhabi by saying for a new scheme, a new development, you need to consider at least district cooling. You don't have to take it, but you need to think about it, and you need to include in your planning application if you've included, if you're taking it, or what are the reasons for not taking it. So we don't force it on people, but we require people at least to study it. But the main driver should be economics and environment for me. These are the two main drivers why people should need it. And it should be, my job is to make it obvious that this is the right solution. That's my thought on this.
Thank you for this presentation. My name is Elise McLean. I'm from Israel, from the Arava Institute. My question, actually I'm dealing in my center also with sustainable urbanism, low carbon transition, and I have few research groups dealing with this kind of topics, and also regional working groups that aims also to cooperate between Israel, the Palestinians, Jordanians, we have also Moroccans. First, I think that I would be pleased to cooperate with you for further on this topic that would be also applicable in Israel, in Palestine, and in Jordan. But what I wanted to ask is in countries, I would say like Jordan, or other countries in the Middle East that don't have this regulation, and also the municipalities don't have so much funding for this kind of policy. So how do you think that this could be applicable in other countries in the Middle East?
Yeah, thank you. It's a good question that maybe I don't have all the answers to, but some. So you mentioned Jordan. So Jordan is one of our target countries. So we think that we can do something with Jordan. We have one or two developments in mind, and we're working with the developers to see how we can work and implement district cooling. It's not an easy ride, actually. Jordan has for many reasons, been a bit bumpy, and we're stop-start, but hopefully we'll get there. In terms of funding, so that, again, that's our job. And one of the things that we need to make clear is that we provide the money for the upfront investment. We are able to raise finance. My shareholders, of Tabreed Engie and Mubadala, are strong backers. We have a strong balance sheet in our own right, and we're able to raise funds. So this isn't an issue, and we work actively on the green bond market, for example, to raise funds. We have support actually from the IFC, and I see there are other institutions that are also keen to work with us. So funding isn't the first issue for us. What's important though is the bankability of projects. So we do need often we need some kind of regulations to make sure that we're going to get paid. Because we've gone to places in the past where there hasn't been regulation, and it's been very difficult to collect our receivables, and it's taken time. Even in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi, we started long before regulation came. Regulation in Abu Dhabi is only new for the last 5 or 6 years in the form it's in now. But we've been going for 20 years before that without regulation. So you don't need it, but it really helps. It really helps to make our life easier. It helps us to raise finance, and it helps to protect the customers too from not having uncontrollable tariffs. So if we could have, and I'm sure in the countries you mentioned, good access to regulators or planners and government departments. Often it's linked to the energy supply company. So where I'm targeting countries in Southeast Asia, one of my first visits is always to the Ministry of Energy to find out how we can work with them. So there are many solutions, but yeah, we'll do the financing, and hopefully that helps get things started in the first place. But we have to do our due diligence and make sure we're going to get paid. So I hope that answers your question. And happy to work with you, by the way. We'll swap cards afterwards, and we'll be back in touch. Anything else? No? Then that's a wrap. Thank you very much. Thanks for your attention today. Thank you.